Hello, Brett. My name is Brian, and I just wanted to respond to your video and your question about souls. And what is a soul? Where does it come from? Where does it reside? What color is it? What shape is it? Anything that we can tell you about a soul so you will be convinced that we have one. Just go over a couple of points very quickly about your video to Steph's stance. And you made it very clear that you're a hardcore extremist atheist, and that's cool. And that atheism simply means a lacking in belief in deities. As in an over omnipresent God is what I'm going to assume. I don't know if you mean that you do not believe in any higher energy than ourselves. I don't know if you would term that a God. There was a person who had questioned what the definition of God is. I think it was Joe God that did that. And I'm not sure getting into a definition is going to be useful here, because we may not have a definition for what we're speaking, other than an energy that is not the same as ourselves, that is not human energy. Because I believe that's where atheists come from, is that everything is up here. Everything is in the mind. Our evolution brought us to that point. Our evolution brought us to the point of being creative. Once we became creative, we created a God. So we would have, where did we come from? Well, we must have came from something that made us, Anyway, I did want to mention a couple of things about when you were talking about the difference between atheism and Christianity. And you made 2 points. You said that atheists do not support the idea of doing violence or harming people. You also made the point that atheists do not try to demoralize people if they don't believe the way that they do. And I would submit to you that that's pretty much a generalization. And this type of generalization is, it does set you up for people saying that there are atheists that do violence against other people. There are atheists that do mock others, that do attack others without provocation. The probabilities in all walks of human life, in all philosophies, do these things. And that's just a matter of probability, which is very scientific, actually. The other thing that you said is that the difference between people who take the Bible literally and believe in the snakes and the animals and other really strange, weird stuff that goes on in the Bible, and atheists, is that atheists care about a rational, free-thinking world. And I think that may have been one of the better things that you said, is that it's important to be able to be a free-thinking human being and make your own choices, make your own decisions. And religion does subvert that to where we cannot be a free-thinking society as long as we have these controls on us by religion. I would submit, though, that the moral code of religion does support things that atheists believe. If you believe that we should not do violence and harm to other people, or we should not belittle other people, there are religions that believe that and teach that. Now, practicing it is a totally different story. Anyway, I liked how you brought up Gandhi, that Gandhi was the reason that I basically started questioning Christianity. Once I was told that Gandhi would be in hell, I did not accept that. That Gandhi was a good, loving, forgiving, compassionate human being that walked this planet. He just happened to be of a different faith than Christianity. And I did not see that he could go to hell. Especially when I was seeing Christians that were not anywhere near the goodness that was coming from Gandhi, and they were professing to go to heaven. So it was good that you brought that up. But I would uh, challenge you on the writings of Jesus, which he said some very good things. And when Steph brought this up, you went on a dialogue towards that we don't even know if Jesus existed. We don't know if Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John existed. There may have been, it's all a fairy tale. But the words that were attributed to Jesus were good. There were some good things in there that atheists abide by, or that believe, part of that moral code. Anyway, I did want to get to your question about souls, proving a soul. And you were saying that proof to you is facts, evidence, things that are measurable, things that where you can see a process of something happening. Is it part of our energy, our neutrons, our cells? Is it a function within our body? And the main thing that I would submit to you is to think of things that scientists did not know in the past. And let's just take the past 100 years. At the end of World War II, actually in the middle of World War II, scientists began playing with radiation. And not just radiation, but splitting atoms of radioactive materials. And came up with this device called an atomic bomb. When that atomic bomb was created and it was exploded, there were radioactive waves that came from that bomb in the form of alpha waves, beta waves, and gamma rays. Some of those rays are benign, some of them are quite lethal. At the time that the experiments happened, it was unknown what the results would be as far as these waves going through the human body. What would they do to the anatomy of a human being? And we learned through using those weapons on a populace. But even after we did that, we continued to explode those weapons in the deserts of Nevada. And there were soldiers that would climb out of foxholes and walk towards the blast. And there were cases of soldiers being affected by those rays. You couldn't see them, you couldn't smell them, you couldn't hear them, you couldn't taste them. You could not use your five senses to understand what was happening. Instruments were developed, measurements were taken, more experiments done, some of those experiments done on animals, to discover the effects of radiation on living flesh. That did not mean that before that time, since those radiation waves were known, that they didn't exist. They did exist. It's just we did not have the knowledge of them. And I would submit, excuse me, that a soul, or that energy that's within us that we call spirituality, could be very similar to that. Something that we don't understand yet. Something that we have not measured as of yet. Now, to say that it has a color or a form or where it resides, those are questions that are pretty elementary. Because if we take my words, when I speak, there's a vibration that goes through the air and it bounces off your eardrums and you hear me. So there is a sense that qualifies that sound as being real, because I can hear it. It must be real. It goes back to that old joke, if a tree falls in the forest, does anybody hear it? Only the other trees, I would submit. But we have a sense. We have senses. We have our eyesight. We have our smell, our taste, our hearing, our touch. Some would say that we have another sense, a sixth sense. And that would be that spiritual sense. I know it's been termed also ESP. How can we tell when something is going to happen? Deja vu would fall into that category. How do we sense those things that are not physical senses? And I think that would go back to the question of a soul. It would go back to that energy that has not been measured yet, has not been discovered yet, has not been identified specifically to be this. But there are some people that are playing around with it. One of those disciplines would be out-of-body experiences. Now, I don't know how much you know about out-of-body experiences. Personally, I don't know a tremendous amount. I did, over the holiday here, pick up this book called Far Journeys by a man named Robert Monroe. And there is now the Monroe Institute. And if you go on Google, you could look up Monroe Institute. And it's all about the experience of out-of-body experiences, as well as near-death experiences, and what happens when a human being is confronted with leaving the physical body. Now, I'm very curious about reading this book because, by what I've been told, is that there are experiments that have been done, controlled experiments that have been done with this type of process that prove that you actually leave your body. Now, if that's the case, then there is a doorway to look at what is that? What is that that we can take a consciousness and go elsewhere? Now, I know that gets into a lot of other questions, and there's nothing wrong with that. Questions are good for science. You got to keep asking questions. Nothing is concrete. Don't forget that science is a competition of theory. The Big Bang is a theory up against the Big Crunch theory, accelerated universe, decelerating universe. They're all theories. There's a lot of things that we just don't know. Superstring theory. You know, we believe we live in 4 dimensions. You have 3 dimensions around you and you have time. Well, superstring theory says that there could be up to 10 dimensions. And within those 10 dimensions, where does the consciousness lie? Where does our mind lie in that process of going through 10 dimensions? So there's a lot of things that I think we don't know. And to say that I don't believe in it is denying or not accepting that science is an evolutionary type of discipline. Okay? It changes all the time. I did want to, well, you know, religion is also a competing theory process. You know, Jesus is the Savior. No, Allah is everything. No, the wheel of karma is what you need to be on. It's all a competition of theory, just as science is. You buy into science, which is fine. You know, science is good. But I think if we bring the two together, and we look at those things that religion has felt in humanity and what science has proven in humanity, we'll move forward. I did want to comment on a couple of people who commented to you. Well, actually just one. I already mentioned Joe God. Dead Logic, who mentioned something about reincarnation. and that the number of souls in existence to the number of souls when their religion was created, the answer to that is simple. People who believe in reincarnation do not believe, as far as my knowledge is that reincarnation only happens with human beings. That you could actually be reincarnated as a blade of grass. And if you think about how many blades of grass there are on the planet, that's quite a few. So it doesn't really fit the model that one human soul per one reincarnated soul. It's not that simple. I just wanted to throw that in there. But anyway, good question. I don't think it's been answered yet, and I don't think it will be answered until we, as creative humans, come up with the instruments to measure it. But don't count it out. That's all I'm saying. As an atheist, fine. Don't believe in an over-controlling or an all-controlling, all-seeing, all-knowing, punishment if you don't do this, reward if you do this type of God. That's fine. But as far as talking about the energy of what's inside of us and what we can do with that energy, I think keep an open mind. You might be surprised. Hopefully we'll be surprised in our lifetimes. But anyway, that was my 2 cents. So take care.